Hi, welcome to Nereal Miniatures. The black power armor wearing Sons of Dawn have always been one of my favorite chapters, so therefore in this video I'm going to show you how to paint a Black Templar Assault Intercessor. We start off by priming our model with Chaos Black. In the next step, we apply our base coat with Eshin Grey. This is a layer paint and therefore very thin. To get a smooth coverage, make sure to use two thin coats. We are going to heavy dry brush our model now with Dawnstone. We repeat the same step, but now we use Administratum Grey. Again, we use the heavy dry brush technique. In the next step, we apply a light dry brush of Grey Seer, but only in the most raised areas of the model. Now we need to shade our model, and I use Oblivion Black Wash by two thin coats for that. A few years ago, Games Workshop released a new recipe for Nuln Oil, and honestly I don't like it that much, and therefore I rather use Oblivion Black Wash by two thin coats, because it's more like the old version or the old recipe of Nuln Oil. As you can see, we apply it all over the model, but make sure that it doesn't pool anywhere. After applying the first coat of Oblivion Black Wash, we apply a second coat of Oblivion Black Wash, but make sure that the first one has already dried. We start edge highlighting our model with Dawnstone. Use a brush with a good tip. I use a Winsor & Newton Series 7 size 0 for that. If you make any mistakes during this process, use Corvus Black and heavily thin this down with water, at least in a 1-2-3 mix, and correct your mistakes then. To finish off our black power armor, we use a dot highlight of Administratum Grey and apply it on the sharpest edges of the model. Our black power armor is looking good right now. Now it's time to apply all the other base paints. In the next step, we're going to base coat the chest piece with Wraithbone. In the next step, we apply Skeleton Horde contrast paint to the chest piece. We use Ushabti Bone as our first highlight. Use a brush with a good tip. Here in this case I use an Artis Opus Series M size 2 brush. Go along all the different lines of the wings. For our last highlight, we use Screaming Skull on the most extreme edges of the wings. In the next step, we apply Khorne Red to the chainsword and also to the bolt pistol. We use Rhinox Hide to paint the leather belt around the Marine's waist. In the next step, we are going to paint the shoulder pads of the Marines, and honestly and truly, there are several different ways of how you can paint them. The Black Templars are a chapter which is not Codex compliant, which means do it as you like. You can see here I have several examples where I painted the shoulder pads in different ways. Looking at the Black Templar Codex, the correct way of painting shoulder pads for Assault Intercessors would be a white shoulder pad with a red trim, but I decided to go with a classic look with white shoulder pads and a black trim. We start painting our shoulder pad with Celestra Grey because we don't want to put a white paint directly over a black paint, and therefore we start with somehow a more grayish paint as a foundation for our white paint. Sometimes Celestra Grey can be a little bit lumpy, therefore thin it down and use 2 thin coats. As you can see here, we applied Celestra Grey also to the Black Templar cross on the backpack. The backpack was taken from the Black Templars upgrade sprue. I like to paint my Black Templar shoulder pads with an off-white, and therefore I use Ulthuan Grey. In the next step, we apply Agrax Earthshade to all the recesses of the shoulder pads to give them a more dirty and grimy look. If you make any mistakes, just clean it up with the color of your choice of the shoulder pads. Now it's time to paint all the metallic parts of the model, and we use Leadbelcher for that. In the next step, we use Nuln Oil instead of Oblivion Blackwash because Nuln Oil has a darker finish to it, and we use it on all the weapon casings and the metallics. Now we are going to highlight the weapon casings of our bolt pistol and our chainsword, and we start by using Evil Sunz Scarlet. Our second edge highlight is an extreme edge highlight of Wild Rider Red. For highlighting all the metallic parts on the model, we use Chrome Model Air by Vallejo. If you don't have this at home, you can totally use Stormhost Silver. In the next step, we are going to paint the purity seals, and we paint the parchment of the purity seal with the base color of Rakarth Flesh. Then we apply Screamer Pink to the wax seal of the purity seal. And of course also to the handle of the chainsword. We shade the parchment of the purity seal with Seraphim Sepia. For highlighting the wax seal, we use a mix of Screamer Pink and Ice Yellow in a 2-to-1 mix. If you don't have Ice Yellow at home, you can totally use Dawn Yellow as a replacement. In the next step, we relayer Rakarth Flesh on the parchment of the purity seal. Make sure that you leave the Seraphim Sepia in the recesses. To finish our purity seals, we apply an edge highlight of Pallid Witch Flesh. We want our purity seals to stand out, and we use Corvus Black to apply some letters and writings. You need to heavily thin this down. You can also use different colors like Khorne Red, as you can see here at the bottom of the parchment. For highlighting our leather belt, we use a Skrag Brown. This is a really easy part. Just go along all the edges of the belt. For painting the knob of the chainsword, I use a Steampunk Copper by 2 thin coats. If you don't have Steampunk Copper, just use Balthasar Gold, for example. And we're going to wash this with Agrax Earthshade and highlight it with Sycorax Bronze. In the next step, we are going to paint the candles on the backpack of our marine, and we base coated them with Wraithbone. Then we apply Flesh Terror's red contrast paint, which is a really nice contrast paint because it leaves us with a very vibrant red. We highlight the edges of the candles with Evil Sunz Scarlet. Our final highlight is an extreme edge highlight of Wild Rider Red. Now we apply Wraithbone to the wicks of the candles. In the final step, we apply Phalanx Yellow to paint a little flame on top of the candles. Now we come to a very enjoyable part of painting our marine, which is painting the eyes of the marine. And we start by base coating the eye socket with Deck Tan. If you don't have Deck Tan, you can use Rakarth Flesh instead. Then apply White Scar on the front half of the lens. I decided to go with glowing eyes on this marine, and therefore I use Fluorescent Orange by AK Interactive. Here I apply a second coat of Fluorescent Orange to the islands of our marine, but more as a glaze and heavily thinned down. Again, we apply White Scar on the front half of the lens to make the glow pop a little bit more. In the next step, we use Fluorescent Orange again, but also again as a thin glaze. Go over the islands of the marine twice. So, our Black Templar Assault Intercessor is ready to be based. You can also apply some drawings or writings on the marine, like you can see here with the other marine. You can paint the shield on the shoulder in different colors, or the candles, for example. It's totally up to you. Our Black Templar is now painted, based, and ready to purge some heretics. I hope that you liked the video. Don't forget to subscribe and like, and I hope I'll see you in the next video. Cheers!